Well, good evening, everybody. Talk a little bit today about good neighbors make good fences, and good fences make good neighbors. Play on the term there. Property lines, between different farms, can be kind of a touchy issue, especially if you are renting the place. And a little bit on how we're dealing with that here. I'm sure every situation is as unique as the players in the game are. But our situation here is we've been leasing this farm for the last 5 years. It's about 220 acres or so. And it's got probably about 4 miles or more of property line. And maybe only 400 or 500 feet of it was, adequately fenced when we got here. So we have been in a multi-year project of getting the fences back up. And so we're working with the landowner here. We're working with the neighbors on the other sides of the fences, or where the fences should be. And how we have arranged this is the gentleman who owns the farm we are leasing. He's a retired farmer and has been really a fantastic guy to work with, and really good. Well, we've swung a deal with him where a little spider crawling in my hand there. We are taking the funds that we would be paying towards the lease every year, and that is being spent directly on fencing. Unfortunately, a lot of the property line is overgrown, we're through the woods. I'm sure you've seen, the situation where when a field's let go, and just being made into hay, how every year about 2 or 3 feet is lost because you don't want to run the, hay machine through the weeds and, briars on the edge, so you don't, and every year you lose a couple feet, and before you know it, you've got 50 feet, 100 feet lost on the edge of that field, and the property line's buried back in there somewhere. And so we've been having to come in and cut all those trees off and find the old fence. And so the arrangement we have is a piece of machinery we'll rent, and that's covered under those fencing funds, but my time is my contribution to the effort. But also we are getting the wood out of clearing these lines for us to do with as we please. And so some of it we're cutting for firewood, some we're sending off for pulpwood, some we're sending the logs off, some we're running through the sawmill, and kind of a little bit of everything, chipping some for bedding and so on. So we've been doing a couple thousand feet a year. For the actual fence construction itself, we are hiring a professional fencing contractor to come in and do that, because they can just do it so much faster, and they've got all the toys. They can pull it straight, they can put the posts in nice, and they're worth every penny here. So I'll show you a little bit of what we've got going on here, and it's in the evening, so the light's kind of fading here a little bit. All right, so we've let me see here. What we've done is identified the parts of the property to us that are the most important to get fenced in, and so those would be along the roads up in the front. So we're doing a piece of that this year, and then also in areas where the neighbors don't have any fence, so that if animals were to get out, they're going to run a long way before something will stop them. So this is our cut that we're doing here, that runs about 600 feet back this way, and then 1100 feet up that way and around. And so we're in the process of cutting about a 40-foot path through the woods here. And what you want to look for if you find yourself in this kind of situation is cutting any tree that's going to be leaning in towards this cut, because once you plow this road through here, trees that have a tendency to lean in, they are going to obviously have some lost support, and so you don't want to install your nice expensive fence and then have a tree fall through it and crush it. That would be heartbreaking. So working with the neighbors is where it can get interesting. And on this project we have 4 neighbors that we're working with. One guy is great, one guy's a little bit grumpy, and the other doesn't seem to care. So you kind of have to finagle those relationships and situations as best you can. And just remember, coming in, leasing the farm here, we are the new kids on the block. And I can tell you, there are family beefs between different property owners that surround us that go back generations, and nobody knows why, but they don't like each other. And so you kind of got to play moderator or mediator between the different factions and try to keep everybody happy. So right here is what was done last year, and this is the edge where we had to cut 50 feet back to find it. And the way this deal worked with the guy who's on the other side, he said, hey, if you clear it all off, he'll come in and install the fence, as long as we did the 7-wire high tensile, which I'm not a huge fan of high tensile fence, but he's putting it in, so yes, that's what we did. And on this side, we're going to be putting American wire, and so a little bit different arrangement where we are footing the full cost of that, but also recovering the timber from the cut to help cover and offset the cost. Ideally, you like landowners to go 50-50 on footing these costs, but you're kind of in a rough place if you're trying to put a fence in an area where they won't ever have livestock. So for this guy, over here, this is woods on the back of his farm that he actually just logged off last year, and he doesn't put livestock in here, which is sad because that's really nice pig ground. But anyway, different conversation. So it's hard to get them to pony up the dollars to put in the fence, so you may have to eat that. All right, so cutting down the trees, and what we're doing is bringing everything out here to the front. This is a little landing area, and what we're doing is kind of categorizing our timber as it comes out, because some of this is going to get sent off. Like I said, some of it will sawmill. Some of them were trees that were, further back in his piece of property, maybe 100 feet, but they were leaning so that if they did fall, they would still take out the fence. So, what we did was say, hey, we'll just pay you stumpage, once those logs go to the mill, as if we're kind of acting like a logger almost. And, he'll get a few dollars out of it, and he was fine with that. So, got to keep those separate. So, it was just a massive tree that was dead. We probably cut it up for firewood. Pine getting piled up here. This will go out for pulpwood, become mulch. Hardwood pulpwood stuff there, which haven't decided yet. We may send it out for pulpwood, or we may cut it up for firewood. Fantastic skid steer, getting a lot of this work done. We also have a E50 Bobcat mini excavator that's back in the woods that has also been doing really well on this project. All right, more logs, oak logs here, and some hickory, and these are our logs to do with as we want. Pine logs that we're probably going to keep for some building projects we got going on. And then behind me here, these are the neighbor's logs, so we're keeping those separate until they get measured and graded and so on. So a little bit of our project that we got going on here with fencing. You'll probably see me posting up some pictures about it and kind of commenting on this as we are trying to, about halfway through this thing, trying to get it done, get ready for the fencing guys to come in next week, and keep all the piggies at home, because you always sleep better when there's fence around your property. You all take care, and have a good evening.